Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be tackling something I bet you interact with every day, but probably rarely think about.
Oh, yeah.
It's the regulations that govern those little pills in your medicine cabinet.
You're absolutely right. We often take medications for granted, but there's a whole world of regulations ensuring that every single pill you swallow is safe and effective.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is.
So imagine you're a scientist, you just developed this potentially life-saving new drug.
Right.
What would be the first hurdle you'd have to clear?
Well, before any human testing can even begin, you have to submit an IND,
Okay,
an Investigational New Drug application to the FDA.
got it.
And this document, it's not a quick form.
Right.
It's a massive compilation of preclinical data manufacturing processes and the proposed clinical trial plan.
Wow.
Think of it like a detailed roadmap for the entire drug development journey.
A roadmap. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So the FDA basically wants to know everything about the drug, from its chemical makeup to how it's made, before they'll even let you test it on humans.
Exactly. It's all about protecting patients and ensuring that only thoroughly researched and potentially beneficial drugs make it to clinical trials.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, let's say your IND gets approved
Okay.
and you're ready to start clinical trials.
All right.
I bet the FDA isn't just hands-off at that point, are they?
Absolutely not. There are different phases of clinical trials,
Right.
each designed to answer specific questions about the drug's safety and effectiveness.
Okay.
And the FDA is involved every step of the way, providing continuous oversight
Uh-huh.
to make sure everything is done according to strict guidelines.
So it's not just a one-time check, it's constant back and forth.
Precisely. The FDA reviews the data from each phase of the trials before allowing the company to move on to the next.
I see.
It's a rigorous process designed to catch any potential problems early on.
That's good.
Yeah.
And speaking of those phases, I've always been curious what they actually entail. Like, what's the difference between, say, a Phase I trial and a Phase 3 trial?
That's a great question. So Phase I trials are the first time the drug is tested in humans,
Okay.
and they usually involve a small group of healthy volunteers.
Got it.
The focus is on safety, figuring out the right dosage range, and understanding how the drug is absorbed and metabolized by the body.
So, like, how the body processes it.
Exactly. Then Phase 2 trials expand to include a larger group of patients who actually have the condition the drug is intended to treat.
Okay.
The goal there is to gather preliminary data on whether the drug is effective and to identify any potential side effects.
So you're starting to see if it actually works.
Yeah. And then Phase 3 trials are the largest and most comprehensive,
Okay.
enrolling hundreds or even thousands of patients across multiple locations.
Wow.
This phase confirms the drug's effectiveness, monitors for side effects in a larger population, and compares the new drug to existing treatments.
So each phase builds on the previous one, gathering more and more data about the drug's safety and effectiveness.
It's a step-by-step process, and the FDA is right there with you at each stage, making sure everything is done by the book.
Now, I know we've all heard about these mysterious acronyms like NDAs and BLAs. What exactly are they?
Those are the big kahunas: the New Drug Application, NDA, and the Biologics License Application, BLA.
Okay.
These are the massive submissions a company sends to the FDA to get final approval for a new drug.
Huge.
They contain years of research data, clinical trial results, manufacturing details, and a whole lot more. Think of it as the final exam for a PhD in drug development.
That sounds incredibly intense. So even after a drug makes it through all those phases of clinical trials, there's still this mountain of paperwork and scrutiny before it can actually hit the market.
That's right. The FDA reviewers meticulously analyze every piece of data
Wow.
to make sure the drug is safe, effective, and manufactured to the highest standards.
So even after a drug is approved, the FDA isn't just waving goodbye and moving on.
Absolutely not. The journey continues with post-marketing surveillance. The FDA keeps monitoring the drug's performance in the real world, looking for any unexpected side effects that might not have shown up in the smaller clinical trial populations.
So it's really a continuous process from the lab bench to the pharmacy shelf and beyond. And I'm starting to get a sense of just how intricate this whole process is. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about good practices in the pharmaceutical world. What exactly does that mean?
Good practices are essentially a set of guidelines and regulations that ensure the quality and consistency of every step of the process.
Okay.
We have CGMPs, which stand for Current Good Manufacturing Practices,
Got it.
and CGCPs, which are Current Good Clinical Practices.
So CGMPs for manufacturing, CGCPs for the clinical trials, they're all about doing things the right way.
Exactly. It's about creating systems where quality is built into every step of the process, from the raw materials used to make the drug to how the clinical trials are conducted. It's not just about the final product, it's about the entire journey.
And all of these good practices, the clinical trials, the
Yeah.
NDAs, this isn't just a U.S. thing, right?
You're right, the pharmaceutical industry is global, and that's where the ICH comes in.
Okay, yeah.
The International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use.
Wow, what a mouthful.
The ICH develops guidelines that are adopted by regulatory bodies worldwide, including the FDA.
So it's like a global network ensuring that no matter where a drug is developed, it meets certain standards.
Exactly. The ICH guidelines cover everything from manufacturing processes to the format of those applications we talked about, like the NDA.
Mm-hmm.
The FDA incorporates these guidelines into the Code of Federal Regulations, or CFR.
Okay, so we have the ICH setting the standards globally, and then each country like the U.S. with its FDA adapts those standards into their own specific regulations.
Precisely. It's a complex but important system that ensures consistency and quality in drug development around the world.
So we've talked about these NDAs, these huge applications companies have to file.
Right.
But what about generic drugs?
Okay.
I imagine the process is a bit different for them since they're essentially copies of already approved medications.
You're right. The pathway for generic drugs is a bit different. Instead of an NDA, they file what's called an NDA,
An NDA?
an abbreviated new drug application.
So abbreviated because they don't have to start from scratch like a brand new drug.
Exactly. With an NDA, the focus is on proving that the generic drug is essentially the same as the brand name drug in terms of active ingredient, dosage form, strength, and how it's absorbed and used by the body, what we call bioequivalence.
Bioequivalence. So they need to show that the generic acts the same way in the body as the brand name drug.
Precisely. They do this through studies comparing how both drugs dissolve and how they appear in the bloodstream over time. They don't have to repeat all the original clinical trials that were done for the brand name drug, which saves a lot of time and resources.
That makes sense, especially when we're talking about making medications more affordable and accessible.
Exactly. The NDA pathway is crucial for bringing generic drugs to market quickly and efficiently.
Now, we've touched on the FDA's role as an oversight body. We hear about these Form 483 sometimes.
Yeah.
What are those all about?
Think of a Form 483 as a wake-up call from the FDA.
Okay.
They conduct inspections of drug manufacturing facilities, and if they find something amiss, maybe a deviation from those CGMPs we talked about, they'll issue a Form 483.
So it's like a warning letter pointing out areas where the company needs to improve its practices.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily mean the drug is unsafe, but it indicates that the FDA has identified potential issues that need to be addressed.
And I imagine the companies take these forms very seriously, given the FDA's authority to take further action if those issues aren't resolved.
Absolutely. Receiving a Form 483 usually triggers a flurry of activity within the company to investigate the findings, implement corrective actions, and prevent similar issues from happening again.
It really highlights the critical role of the FDA in ensuring that drug manufacturing meets those high standards we've been talking about.
It does. The FDA's oversight is vital for maintaining public trust in the safety and quality of medications.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've talked about INDs, NDAs, BLAs, CGMPs, the ICH, the FDA. It's quite a complex world.
It is, but when you break it down, it's all about ensuring that the medications we rely on are safe, effective, and consistently manufactured to the highest standards.
And that's a journey that starts long before a drug ever hits the pharmacy shelf.
Absolutely. It's a journey that starts with the spark of scientific discovery, winds its way through years of research and rigorous testing, and ultimately ends with a medication that can improve or even save lives.
And along that journey, there are countless checkpoints, regulations, and dedicated individuals working tirelessly to ensure that every step is taken with the utmost care and attention to detail.
That's what makes this field so fascinating. It's a delicate balance of scientific innovation and regulatory oversight, all driven by the ultimate goal of improving human health.
It's amazing to think about the sheer complexity of bringing a new drug to market.
It is.
We've talked about the science, the regulations, the global collaboration.
Right.
But what about the human side of this equation?
Yeah.
Where do patients fit into all of this?
That's a crucial point. Patients are at the heart of everything we've discussed today. All of these regulations, all of this research, it's ultimately about ensuring that patients have access to safe and effective medications.
So while the FDA might seem like this distant regulatory body, their role is fundamentally about protecting patients.
Exactly. And patients themselves play a crucial role in this process, too.
How so?
Well, it's important for patients to be informed about their medications, to understand the potential benefits and risks, and to be active participants in their healthcare decisions.
So it's not just about passively taking whatever the doctor prescribes.
Not at all. Patients should feel empowered to ask questions, to discuss their concerns with their healthcare providers, and to report any unusual side effects they experience.
It's a two-way street then. Open communication between patients and their doctors is key.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the role of pharmacists. They're a wealth of information about medications and can provide valuable guidance to patients.
It sounds like being an informed patient is almost as important as having a good doctor.
I'd agree with that. The more patients understand about their medications, the better equipped they are to make decisions that are right for them.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complex world of pharmaceutical regulations.
It is complex.
It's a world that's often hidden from view, but it's so
Think
important for all of us.
it is.
And it's something we probably don't think about very often.
Right. Until we need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a fascinating journey learning about all of this.
It has been a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
To you, dear listener, we hope you've gained a new appreciation for the intricate process that goes into making those pills in your medicine cabinet. It's a world of science, regulations, and dedicated individuals all working together to ensure that the medications you rely on are safe, effective, and truly make a difference in your life. Until next time, keep exploring the world around you and never stop asking questions.